Good morning and good afternoon, all. Happy hump day all round. We made it, guys. It's halfway through the week already. Hope everyone's having a great day so far. I am. Let me say good morning to everyone, or good afternoon in some cases. I know Chris Persia was first, so congratulations, Chris. Good morning to you, and good morning to Mark. Both the Bash brothers are here. Welcome, guys. We have got Darth Haster. Good morning, love. Deadman Walking. Good morning. Very glad that you had a good birthday. We've got the Geek Inside Hump Day. Yes! Yes, it is. Gun Bunny. Hello, love. Good to see you. Let's see who else has joined us. We've got Snorter Pooper Scuba. Good morning. Catman Dee Myers. Good morning to you. Good to see you. Dave Bob. Good morning. Let's see who else has joined us. We've got D-Bud Martin. Hello, love. Good to see you. And Nearsighted Cyclops. Good morning. Pat S. Welcome. Good to see you. Let's see who else. Have I missed anyone? No, I think we've got everybody. Good to see you guys. Welcome. Oh, Punk Waddle. There you are. Hey, good to see you. And a massive thank you to Phoenix Tangents. Hello. Good to see you. He sends us a $5 super chat with a frightened scream. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you very much. I hope you're having a good day. Guys, gotta admit, wasn't sure what I was going to talk about today, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to fall back on a subject that I love, one that I can talk about, one that I can be enthusiastic about, and that is horror movies. Guys, I love the horror genre. It is one of my absolute favorites, right up there with sci-fi and fantasy. It's probably my, top three. And any films that combine all three, well, that's a winner for me. Um, but in the past, we've talked about Universal horror, we've talked about the Hammer horror films. But today, what I thought I would do is go into more of the more famous franchises. Because looking over them, there are so many, especially ones from the 80s that just had sequel after sequel after sequel. Uh, not all of them great, but that's okay. And hello, Eric K. Welcome. Good to see you. Hello, love. And good afternoon to who just joined us. It was Colin. Hello, Colin. Good afternoon. So I've seen you guys in the chat talking about different horror movies, but I'm going to kick things off with my favorite. So I know technically with the 80s, there was the big three. You had Friday the 13th, you had Halloween, but the one that I always gravitated towards was A Nightmare on Elm Street. Guys, I cannot tell you how much I love those films, and I'm a sucker for all of them. I know they're not great, but I can watch all of them and find something that I can enjoy. And I think what kind of tied those things together, it was Robert England, let's face it. And hello, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Let's see if I can pronounce the name correctly. Zazos Partilo. I hope I got that right. Thank you, sweetheart. Welcome. Good to see you. And Angelica Smoke. Hello, lovely. We're the Dream Warriors. Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, for me, it was A Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, first came about in 1984, the first Nightmare on Elm Street film, and it introduced us to Freddy Krueger, who in at least the first couple of films was scary. I know later on in the films he became kind of campy and very silly, and very over the top. But in the first film, at least, he was scary. You know, you didn't know who this character was. He could attack you in your dreams. There was no real escape for him because at the end of the day, everybody has to sleep at some point. And Wes Craven really came up with this very inventive character, and Robert Englund brought him to life brilliantly. You know, he embraced this character and just ran with it, and clearly had a heck of a lot of fun with it. And I think also he had a great supporting cast. So there was Heather Langenkamp, who played his kind of nemesis, his final girl, Nancy Thompson. and it was great to see them kind of go up against each other. And if anyone's seen the Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that's a really good kind of, it flips the whole idea on its head and brings it into the in quotes real world. So I'd highly recommend that film as well. Um, there was a reboot. Jackie Earl Haley played him. I think that was 2010. Um, I like Jackie Earl Haley. I think he's a great actor, but this film, it wasn't great, unfortunately. And Hank and Bunny, she says I was not allowed to watch horror movies until the mid to eight like 90s. I probably started watching horror movies younger than I should have, but that's okay. And Angelica says, I love the second Nightmare. Me too. I really, I enjoyed it as well. My favorite is probably number three, Dream Warriors. But I think a lot of people really love that one as well. But like I say, I can watch all of them and still find something that I enjoy about them. I think it's probably the over the top kills as well that they did. Um, and Paris said Purple Valkyrie would have been okay with being Freddy's girlfriend. I've met Robert England a few times. He's a sweetheart. He's a really nice guy. Um, let's see what else you guys are saying. Oh, hey, haven't seen you for a while. Hey, Sinjin Dildo, good to see you. It says, sup, nerds. Purple just came to say hello. Gotta take my doggo to the vet for a check. Oh, I hope they're okay. Have a good one. I'm gonna buzz off now. uh, Teresa says, show the glove. I can't show the glove. I can't be on camera today. I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually kind of, I was in the process of getting ready for something else, so I'm only half done up today. Sorry, but I'll put a picture in Discord for you. Um, my cousin-in-law has met Rob England. Nice. He's a really good guy. He's really cool. Um, and obviously that is my favorite franchise. That's the one I gravitate towards. But obviously the other two big ones were Friday the 13th. You know, love those films. Can't do I was gonna say you can't beat Jason, but you can. And actually, bringing up Friday the 13th, I actually love Freddy versus Jason as well. That's another really good film that I nearly forgot to mention. But I think Friday the 13th is one of those franchises as well that had a lot of sequels. I think there were 12 um, in this series, and I know it's probably going to get a reboot as well. Um, but I don't know if I was going to pick between Jason and then Michael Myers, I would pick Jason. So we'll go Freddy, Jason, Michael for those big three, at least for me. Um, what else have we got? So since we were talking about oh oh Catman, he says Exorcist was and still is awesome to this day. It is absolutely, and I think Mark was talking about that earlier, weren't you, Mark? You said that was one of the films that really stuck with him. I've heard that said from a lot of people actually. Um, for me, it never really had that much of effect. But somebody that I spoke to who was a little bit older than me, they saw it in the cinema and said they couldn't sleep for 2 days after. They said it was because up until then, the horror films that they'd had were things like Frankenstein, it was Dracula, it was all the older based films. And this one, because it was kind of set in modern day, um, it really struck a chord with them and it really, really hit something deep. But like I says, yeah, Exorcist is definitely one that speaks me. I really enjoyed it, I've got to admit. At least the first one. And Dave Bob, what did Dave Bob say? He said, nephew's mate, Michael Myers. Poor kid. That's an awesome name to have. Oh, not at all. That is a fantastic name. I like Michael Myers, but of the big, from the trifecta of the 80s, he's my number three, for that. And Geek Inside says I met Kane Hodder once. Nice guy. I've heard he's a really nice guy. Um, to be honest, pretty much most of the horror actors that I've ever met, and I've met a few, they've always been really, really sweet. And hello, good to see you, Jedi Bill. Welcome. Jedi Bill says, "How about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Purple Valkyrie?" Another fantastic film, and at least if you go by the first Chainsaw Massacre, not nearly as graphic as you think it is. It's not nearly as graphic as you remember. Um, it's all kind of implied because of the way it was shot, but it's another one that really seems to strike that chord with people because it's so visceral. Apparently, it was hell to film as well for the cast. I've heard interviews where they had an absolutely miserable time on set trying to get this thing filmed. Badass Michael Myers kind of looks like William Shatner to me. You know what? Now that you mention it, he does have a passing resemblance. And hello, Billy Duncan. Welcome. It says Saw franchise got boring after part three. I would be inclined to agree. Saw the first Saw film and really enjoyed it. I think it was because it was something different, and if I remember correctly, it was filmed on a real shoestring budget. Um, but yeah, it kind of got bigger than it needed to be, and obviously because of the way these horror films are set out, each one has to kind of up the other, and it got very, very convoluted with the Jigsaw killer. Um, but again, he's a really cool character. Never never really big on the whole puppet thing. Um, but but the actual serial killer himself is pretty cool. um, and another one that got rebooted recently, if I remember correctly. Eric K says Halloween is my fave, but Omen and Poltergeist. Mike Myers' mask is a William Shatner mask, FYI. I know. Believe me, I know. But it's still funny. Yep, they took that mask, spray painted it white, and they said, "There you go, put that on." Uh, Hellraiser 1 and 2 were damn fine horror movies. They were. See, I remember watching those probably younger again than I should have. And I remember being kind of wowed by the special effects, especially the creatures. So the Cenobites, the way that they looked, um, were really, really inventive. I mean, obviously, it's based on Clive Barker. It comes from his mind. The Hellbound Heart is the book it's based on. Um, but a great, great film. Again, another franchise that kind of ran a little bit too long, I think. But still, the first couple were very fun. And I think there was a newer recent one. I think it was called Judgment. That's supposed to be quite good as well, but I haven't watched that yet. So, but again, so many things to watch, guys. So little time. Billy Duncan, he says Puppet Master. Now there's a classic. Again, another long running franchise. I can't remember exactly how many Puppet Master films there are. I know there's more than 10. I'd have to check to make sure. Um, but yeah, I would love to have a replica of some of those puppets, especially Blade. That would be really cool to have. Um, Phantasm. Oh, Yeah, I remember Phantasm. Phantasm was the one with the little ball, wasn't it? If I remember correctly, with Angus Scrimm, I think played him. Uh, to be honest, that was one that I watched, but it never really struck a chord with me the way the other ones did. I don't know what it was. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I thought they were really good films, and again, um, he's a really cool kind of villain. But for some reason, it just didn't grab me the way some of the other franchises did. Indeed, he says Puppet Master rocks in my book. I enjoy them too, especially the first couple. They got a little bit silly after, but that's okay. I think they kind of realized that the concept was a little bit silly, so they just ran with it. So I'm fine with that. Uh, Colin, um, it says, I'll ask the expert. Rise and Shine with Purple Valkyrie wasn't reanimated based on a Lovecraft Herbert West. Yes, it was. Based on mainly in name only, it doesn't really follow the plot at all. In fact, it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't follow the plot of the Herbert West Lovecraft story at all. But yes, it is in name only. But it's a fun film. And hello, Cam Cam, good to see you. Welcome. Uh, as you guys are on it, chat's jumping on me. Dadman Walking 55. The 70s horror films were so cheesy and bad effects, but they gave really good scares and were entertaining considering the times. They really were. The 70s and 80s, at least for me, were some of the best times for movies in general. But we had great fantasy films, we had great sci-fi films, and as you say, we had great horror films. Oh gosh, let's see what else we can pull up. Um, ah, so this one is going to be a little bit more of a a recent one, not one that really kind of liked, but it seems to be really popular because they've had 6 films in the series so far. Paranormal Activity. I remember seeing the first one, and I thought it was okay. It was a new concept. Didn't really find it scary because again, that kind of thing, possession. I never really found that frightening. I've got to admit, ghosts and things like that just never really had that much of an impact on me. Um, but it was okay. But again, it's one that seems to have kind of run its course, but they just keep on bringing out more and more sequels. Same with The Purge, which I think has had 4 films so far, which have kind of slowly gotten away from the initial concept of the first film. And I think if I remember correctly, the 4th film has kind of reinvented itself. So I'll be curious to see if they continue with it after. um, since we were talking about The Exorcist earlier, I looked it up last night because I was doing a little bit of research trying to kind of get a ranking in my mind of my favourites, and I didn't realise that there were 5 Exorcist films. I remember the first 3, and I do remember that Exorcist 2 had James Earl Jones in, which was really bizarre. But I don't remember the rest. Um, but as we were saying, the first film really struck a chord with people, especially the first people that saw it in the cinema, because it's set in kind of a modern day setting. It's just a normal family, and it's Linda Blair really sold the role of being possessed by this demon. And Jedi Bill says Hatchet 1, 2, and 3 were pretty good. I remember the Hatchet films. I've got to admit they were pretty good. Um, I think that came out in. I think the first ones came out in the 90s, didn't they, Bill? You'll probably have to correct me for that one. but they were pretty good. I remember them being very kind of over the top with the kills again. Um, but I always likened them to kind of the Friday the 13th films. They had that kind of slasher killer. And hello, that's 70s rock fan. Good to see you. Welcome. Dave Bob says Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1970s with Nimoy. That was a really good film. And that one was again kind of as they were saying earlier in the chat, the the films of the 70s, they were more kind of focused on getting a response from people rather than just gore. And again, that one worked really, really well with that concept. Let's see what else you guys have come up with. And hello, Simon Larkin, welcome. It says, I also like any film written by Stephen King. Oh, cool. Stephen King's books, there have been so many of them translated to film. A lot of them, at least for me, have been kind of hit and miss when it comes to it. But I really liked It, the first It. I thought that was pretty good. Again, because of Tim Curry, he sold that role. The remake, I enjoyed. It was okay. I thought the clown wasn't as great as Tim Curry's version. Um, but I thought the cast, at least the kids, did really well in it. And I really like Shining. I know Stephen King hates that film, but I always enjoyed that. Mark says Salem's Lot was spooky back in the 70s. Um, that's one of those films that I think a lot of people forget about because he did quite a lot of them back to back. So there was Salem's Lot. I know Pet Cemetery was done as well. Um, but Salem's Lot is a great take on the vampire mythos. And Paris says Stephen King's shorts make better stories, make better movies. I'd agree with that. I know it's not technically a horror, but Stand By Me would be one of probably the best examples of that, based on The Body, which was one of his short stories. And yes, I was getting around to that. The Evil Dead movies are awesome. Yes, they are. And again, you've got the you've got Bruce Campbell to thank for that. He clearly loves playing Ash. I know at one point there was supposed to have been because of the success of Freddy versus Jason, we were supposed to have had a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash film. Um, you can find the script online. It's pretty good. And the closest we ever got to it was released in comic book form, which I'd also really recommend if you guys can find it. Um, but again, our protagonist, played by Bruce Campbell, kind of I suppose you could call him a cowardly character. You know, he's a very reluctant hero. He doesn't really want to get involved, but he keeps getting pulled into these kind of scrapes. Um, I really like Sam Raimi as a director. For me, I always see Evil Dead 2 as a kind of remake to the first Evil Dead. You know, Sam Raimi tweaking the story. Um, and then obviously we had Evil Dead 3, which kind of kind of takes it off into a whole different direction. Um, and it almost takes it into kind of a parody fantasy story, but it's still a lot of fun. And later on, obviously, we had Ash versus the Evil Dead, which I enjoyed as well. Chris said that would have been so awesome seeing Ash take on Freddy, Jason, and Michael. That would have been cool. Shop smart, shop as smart. Exactly. This is my boomstick. Um, Bill, I'd agree. I didn't really care for it, even though again, Bruce Campbell was in it. You know, he played a small role, but it just didn't capture that magic that the first ones had. Um, and Cam Cam says, "Hail, Bruce Campbell, my cousin." Nice, great guy and actor. I've heard he's a really nice guy. He's kind of he's very sarcastic when you meet him, but if you kind of give that back, yeah, he's a really fun guy to get to chat to. Bruce Campbell's the man. He really is. He is. He's a really cool guy. What else can we pull up? Let's see. We got Halloween. Oh, one that I forgot about almost. Insidious. It was one of those ones I didn't see. I know Insidious and The Conjuring. A lot of people kind of link together. Of the two, I think I prefer the Insidious films, but I always kind of get them mixed up anyway because they're so close. I like Patrick Wilson. I think he's pretty good in it. He definitely plays a really good role. Um, but these films and a lot of the newer kind of horror films, they um, relied very heavily on jump scares, and I was never that impressed by jump scares. Um, so it didn't really do that much for me. Hello, Too Much 77. It says Wishmaster can be quite fun. That I would agree with, at least the first film. Um, that was a great film. Another one that I didn't watch for a long time because it kind of went under my radar, but when I did watch it, I really enjoyed it. And that's almost a kind of homage to horror movies in itself because it's got so many big horror actors in it. It's got Kane Hodder, it's got Tony Todd, it's got Robert England, all playing these little bit parts. Um, and I think, if I can remember, who was it that played? Um, was it? Oh, it was Andy Divoff. That was the Jin. That was it. I never remember that guy's name, but he's got a great voice, and the look of the character was great as well. I heard interviews that he did, and he was saying how heavy the costume was to wear. He said it was almost like wearing a suit of armor. You have to basically climb into it and then kind of get sealed up the back. So once you're in it, you're stuck in there. And then he had these little kind of motors going to move the tentacles on the Jin's head. Um, so, but he looks great. And hello, Jack of all casuals. Good to see you. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. But I like the Wishmaster films. Again, I think the problem with a lot of these franchises is they hit on this winning formula. The first one obviously does really, really well, and then they want to kind of do sequels, and the sequels come too quickly, and they just run a franchise into the ground, which is a real shame. Jack or Casuals asks, so what are the qualifications for horror film franchises? Well, for me, obviously, it's got to be there's got to be sequels. So it's got to be something that's well established. There doesn't have to be, like Nightmare on Elm Street, multiple sequels, but something that has spawned a successful franchise. Something that has had multiple spin-offs. That's what I would class as a franchise. I mean, you could technically say the Universal films is a franchise, even though it covers multiple different characters. I would still kind of put it under that umbrella term. The same with a lot of the Hammer horror films. But for me, I was more focusing today on, the films based on individual characters like Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Saw, Poltergeist, that kind of thing. So Bob says less than 1,000. And that 70s rock fan. The Star Wars Holiday Special is my favorite horror movie. Oh, back in the days when that was the worst Star Wars film that we had. Uh-huh. Um, would the Tremors franchise count? Absolutely. The first one scared the crap out of me when I was young. I remember the Tremors. Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of one of those weird things because at least in the first film, you don't see what it is right up until the end, and then you kind of wish you hadn't. But no, absolutely, I would class Tremors as a franchise, especially since it's being rebooted, of course. And hello, Speak for the Dead. Welcome. Good to see you. Ah, and Mark, you had to bring up the clown in Poltergeist. Everybody hates that clown in Poltergeist. And I hate clowns in general. So, yeah, that thing was freaky. And I've seen there's like recreations of it that you can buy. It's like, nope, not gonna touch it as much as a horror movie fan as I am. I do not want that thing sitting on a shelf. Oh my gosh. Let's see what else we can bring up. We've done Halloween, Paranormal Activity, and was never a big fan of, I've got to admit. Um, what about um, one that we haven't brought up yet, the Child's Play films, since we were talking about dolls? Uh, See, Chucky, I can never take seriously, even though I really like Brad Dourif as an actor. I think he does really well playing the character of Chucky. I just thought it was really silly, to be honest. It's a doll, for goodness sake. And again, one that's kind of taken over with the sequels, and again, and one that's even now recently been rebooted. And I think it was Mark Hamill that voiced him. And it was really, I know it sounds horrible, but I actually found it boring. It was really, really kind of by the numbers. It was really lackluster. And as much as I love Mark Hamill, he really didn't do much for the character. And hello, Punk Waddle. He says, I think I like the suspense more than the horror movies. Maybe it's just the orchestral dissonance. It never stops uh, throughout the still boring scenes. Really good. Um, you're absolutely right. Music plays such a huge role in these sort of films. You think, for example, Jaws, the way that that's really simple kind of music, it kind of ramps up the dread, and you know it's coming. You know the shark is on the way, um, but it's used very, very well. And hello, love. Hello, Psycho Dwarf 9. Thank you, sweetheart. He sends us a $5 super chat. It says, what's the point of having something you can't play with? Wise words, Psycho Dwarf. Wise words. And you can apply that to many things. And hello, Lucifer. Good to see you. Welcome. And Roll Tide Keeley. Good to see you. Welcome, guys. Mark says, the same here. The best clown is a dead clown. The only exception I would make for that is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I do have a soft spot for those. But I class those as aliens rather than clowns. They just happen to look like clowns. So so that's how I get around that one. And that one's very tongue-in-cheek humor anyway, so it's not really scary. Jack of all casuals, the only good modern horror franchise that I can think of is the Conjuring universe. I liked it as well. At least I liked the first film. I don't think I've seen the others. Um, let's have a look, see if I have some. Let's see if I've. 'Cause I know there's another one that's just been released, hasn't there? The Devil Made Me Do It. Um, so the first one came out in 2013. Um, yeah, I definitely remember seeing it because it's another one that has Patrick Wilson in playing with what the heck was her name? Vera Farmiga. I think it was Farmiga. Playing Ed and Lorraine Warren. Which were pretty cool. Um, yeah, I think if I remember correctly, the first one did really well. It was one of those ones that kind of it's in the same formula as the Amityville Horror kind of franchise, and I think that's why it struck a chord with people and did really well. Um, I can't remember the sequels as well, um, but I enjoyed the first one definitely, and I'll probably eventually watch this one that's just been released as well. Dave Bob just throwing out some good ones. A Little Shop of Horrors. Do you mean the musical or do you mean the Corman one? Because I like both of those. And Too Much 77, the first Alien movie, was a good horror movie. It was a great horror movie. Oh my gosh. Now talk about a film that ramps up the feeling of dread and claustrophobia. Such a good film, and I think also it's one of the few, or at least one of the first Alien films where you had something that looks completely inhuman with the xenomorphs, obviously based on H.R. Geiger's designs. These things are just awful, and the fact that they kind of gestate inside people and then come bursting out. Um, Very, very visceral, but really, really well done. And who doesn't love Sigourney Weaver? Talk about a strong woman. Creepshow 1 is a indefinite must-see for pulp comedy horror. I have a soft spot for the Creepshow, and for the Creeper. I love that character. What was the one that I watched recently? Oh, Bordello of Blood. I remember that one. That was a really good film. Jedi Bill asks, "I Spit on Your Grave is a decent franchise. Have you seen them?" I have. I've seen the original, and then I saw the one that was the remake. I actually like both of them. Um, I know they would be kind of classed as, I suppose, revenge films, if you will, because it's obviously it's a tale of a woman kind of turning the tables on a group of guys and getting really gory revenge for what they did to her. What's Have I seen Collect Hands of Outer Space? I have. It's a guilty pleasure, Cam Cam. Um, it's very campy. It's very silly. Um, but I do enjoy it. And like I say, I hate clowns, but I'll still watch it because it's a good film. Zeba and Martin, they're supposedly working on a Final Destination 6 film now. Love that franchise. I didn't know there was a sixth film coming because I thought the whole point of the fifth film was that it kind of bookended the whole series. Because obviously, if you watch it, it kind of um, the ending of five is the beginning of one, and it kind of goes in a really nice, neat circle, which I thought was really well done. Um, but I'd be curious to see it because I do enjoy them. It's another one of those that was I think it worked really well because it was a different concept. So obviously, again, similar to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, it puts forward the premise that nobody can escape death, um, or nobody can cheat death, I suppose would be a better way of putting it. And who doesn't love Tony Todd? Everybody loves Tony Todd. But again, those films have some really creative kills. I think my favorite one was I suppose the carnival one was my favorite one. I thought that was pretty good. Um, although the one with the bridge was uh, was well done as well. That's a really, really well done opening. And Colin, Bordello, you say? Indeed, indeed, sir. I'd recommend. And hello, SRB. Good to see you. Um, did you know that Shudder has made some awesome, spectacular TV series out of Creepshow, directed by Greg Nicotero? I didn't actually. No, I'll have to check that out. If you'd recommend it, Bill, definitely, I will look into that one. Speak for the Dead. Hello, love. The Sixth Sense was a great suspense film. It was. I know a lot of people bash M. Night Shyamalan for his kind of twists, but that film really did catch a lot of people by surprise with the twist ending. And I really, really like Bruce Willis in it. I know he's kind of now tied them into the other films in the franchise. I think he tied them into Glass and what was the other one, guys? Um, I know the chat will remember. Um, but it was pretty cool. But I think it was a much better standalone film. uh, Bill says I highly recommend them. Okay, I will check them out. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Like I say, always on the lookout for recommendations from you guys, and you always bring up some really good ones. Farah says, "Don't fall down the horror action figure rabbit hole. It's deep and pricey. It is. Oh, I would love to have some really of the high end, um, at least statues and busts and figures. The ones I would have really liked to have gotten, which I kind of kicked myself because I had the chance years ago to own them, were the McFarlane figures. You know, back when they were doing the really detailed, high end collectible figures, and they weren't that expensive at the time. But you live and learn. I can still get them, but the price has definitely jumped up now. Oh my gosh. And Zadman Walking says, I've given up trying to pick out movies of any type because I keep picking bombs. The Mrs. Sadman Walking picks much better movies than I do. Ah, but that's the thing with these franchises, you know, you can pick one and there's going to be duds in all of them. You know, even my favorite ones, some are weaker than others, most definitely. And Speak for the Dead, The Thing is one of my favorite of all times. Sorry, guys, had to get a drink. The Thing is a amazing film, absolutely. Another John Carpenter classic. And again, I think it's the special effects because they are practical effects that make this film similar to Alien. It's got that claustrophobic feel where you know they're stranded. You know, there's nowhere they can go. They're just stuck with this thing. And as the film goes on, the paranoia and the tension mounts between them until obviously there's only two left. Great, great film. Thank you, Hester. Thank you. Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. That's it. I couldn't remember Split. which was a shame because that was actually a really good film. That was oh, James McAvoy, wasn't it? Uh, has anyone seen the article about the 24,000-year-old micro animal that came back alive in the Arctic? Yes, I did, Dave Bob, and as as speaker just said, the first thing that my mind jumped to was the thing as a oh, this can't end well. And it's 2021, so would anybody be surprised at this point if we have a zombie apocalypse? I don't think so. Bunkwardle says there is the underlying tension that only builds. It's hard not to get sucked into it. Absolutely. And again, it's one of those films that you can watch time and time again and still have fun with it. See my post. Yes. Um, thank you guys. Thank you. Yeah, you guys are the best. Gunn says some of the best Doctor Who stories were based on the siege stories. I think that's because those kind of stories hit a resonance with people. That's why they work so well. And hello and thank you to Jack of all casuals. Thank you. He sends us a 4.99 super chat. He says the first Terminator is a horror film in disguise. I would agree with that, to be honest. Again, similar to Alien, I would class both of those as kind of horror films. Terminator more so because it's kind of like a almost body horror as well as being this kind of futuristic um, horror but based film. But again, I think it was the special effects that sold these sort of films. Stan Winston was behind the design of the Terminator. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can't beat him. But thank you very much, Jack of all casuals. Thank you, sweetheart. And Dave Bar brings up a good one. He says the original Blob was a rip-off of a Japanese film called H-Man. No, H-Man I haven't seen, but I have heard of. I've seen both of the Blob films, and I've got to admit, I actually, of the two, I preferred the remake. Um, I think it's just because it's just a little bit more gory. It's the original Blob film, although you know, well done for the time, it's a little bit tame by today's standards. Plus, it's that weird kind of pink color. It just looks kind of odd, but it's still a great film. And I would kind of class The Fly, those films in the same vein. Um, actually like Cronenberg's remake of The Fly better than I did the original, because again, it's that kind of body shock horror that he brings to it. Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead, uh, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, another great movie franchise. Absolutely. Um, I've got to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of zombie movies, but you can't beat George Romero when it comes to these. He kind of invented, obviously, the whole concept of zombies. I know this film's been kind of remade over again, but you can't really beat the original when it comes to Night of the Living Dead. um, let's see what else you guys have got. You guys are on it today. Thank you. Oops. And it skipped on me. Sorry, guys. That's the one I was after. The original Omen was the top trilogy. Yes, I've got a bit of the trilogy. I only ever really liked the first one. Um, there's just something obviously really creepy about that kid. It works really well. Um, and at the time, if I remember correctly, there was a whole kind of slew of films about kids. Um, there's things like Bad Seed, another long-running franchise, Children of the Corn, those sort of things. Um, but I did enjoy the first Omen film, absolutely. Um, let's see what else we've got. 28 days later. Hello, Golgo. Good to see you. That was great, except for the yes. And I really like Cillian Murphy. I think he's a really good actor. Um, I enjoyed the first 28 Days Later. The sequel, not so much. Um, we've had some really good kind of horror films come out of the UK. Um, again, in the same vein as 28 Days Later, I would put The Descent, which is really good. Pretty much all female cast. Um, again, another fairly claustrophobic film because it takes place underground in a caving system, but really well done. And one of my favourites, Dog Soldiers, a really good werewolf movie that I'd recommend to everybody. Um, and I think it was made on a really kind of tight budget because there aren't many locations it's shot in. It mainly takes place in a farmhouse, but most of the budget went on the werewolves, and I actually really love the design of them. It reminds me of the werewolves from The Howling, which is another franchise I always enjoyed. Would I classify how would I classify Village of the Damned? I would class it as horror, Colin. Absolutely. Um, it's one that I haven't seen for a long time, and again, it's based on a book, isn't it? If I remember correctly. Um, but yeah, definitely, I would class it. Dog Soldiers is a good film. It is. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorites. Um, but if we're going to go werewolf movies, obviously, American Werewolf in London, you can't beat that. Um, one of the best and probably most gory transformation scenes, I think, in any werewolf movie. You see him turning into this monster, and it, you can see just how painful it would be to become this creature. Great, great film. Midwich Cuckoos. Thank you, Colin. SRB says all the best horror movies have a little budget. They do, because when you've got a small budget, same as the Saw film, for example, the first film, you have to use your imagination and you have to be a little bit more inventive with how you do things. Oh, Mark, another horror movie that ended up being a comedy was Nick Cage's Wicker Man. It did, and I don't think it ever set out to be, if I remember correctly. I think they played it very straight. They wanted it to be taken seriously. But how can you take it seriously when you've got Nicolas Cage just overacting as he does and screaming about bees? But since you brought it up, I love the original Wicker Man. It's probably in my top five favorite horror films. Um, Christopher Lee is so good in that film, and it's it was the first time I watched it. It shocked me because of the ending. It's not the ending that I expected at all. I was like, oh, okay, that happened. It's a great film, but I certainly didn't see it coming, and I love it when a film can actually take me by surprise. Uh, the bees, not the bees. Exactly. Uh, it's become a meme now, and I it probably was not what they anticipated. Uh, but Valkyrie, your show is so chill. Thank you. I like talking to buds over beers, but at 10 in the morning. So like Mardi Gras. Well, if it helps, it's nearly 5 p.m. here. So cheers. Cheers to you, Paris. And I see you guys are talking about the Korean films. I would absolutely agree. If you want really great practical effects, go watch some Korean horror films. Fantastic films. Korean, Japanese, definitely. You can't beat them. But Nearsighted Cyclops says the Kingdom is another South Korean zombie fest that has amazing special effects, set in medieval Korea with amazing costumes. That one I haven't seen, so if you recommend it, I am going to add that one to my list as well. So thank you. Thank you very much, sweetheart. And I see you guys talking about Omega Man and Last Man on Earth. I do remember the 64 one, Colin. Dave Bob, sorry. With Vincent Price. Didn't really like the one that Will Smith did, I've got to admit. I thought it was really kind of they played it really safe. It was kind of lackluster. It's like, it's okay. Um, I think when they released the alternate cut, that made it better, definitely. And hello, Mexican Iron Man. Good morning, Papi. It says Rise of the Mexican Iron Man is the most scary. It's good to see you. Welcome. And hello, Pudgy. Good to see you. It's okay, Pudgy. You can come out now. You've missed all the scary stuff. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Um, yeah, like I said, I love horror movies, I've got to admit. Um, Generally, if I'm going to sit down and watch a film, I either gravitate to sci-fi, like, or horror or fantasy. So that is those are my go-to genres. And so a massive, massive thank you for you guys for joining me today. Appreciate it. And thank you, Keely. Thank you very much, sweetheart. Um, I will be back Friday as usual for my 10 a.m. show. I think that we've got a game stream this evening. Not positive, but if we do, I would definitely tweet it out and let you guys know. Massive, massive thank you to everyone who sent super chats today, and to our new members. You guys are the best. Thank you. Um, so, guys, we made it halfway through the week, and a massive thank you to you all. Hope you had a little bit of fun. I certainly did. Oh, and just under the line. Thank you, sweetheart. Nearsighted Cyclops, he sends us a $5 super chat. Thank you. Just a warning, Kingdom is a series, not a movie, so be prepared for a long haul. Okay, will do. That's fine. Like I say, it fits perfectly because we were talking franchises, so that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Oh my gosh, guys. You have a fantastic day, and I will see you no doubt either on the next show or later on this evening or tomorrow in Loki's chat. So, guys, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and thank you. And keep watching horror films. Mwah. Thank you, guys.